There are various ways of collecting sample from the population. The approach to selecting a subset from the population is called sampling. And there are broadly two types of methods in sampling. One is purely chance-based method called as probability sampling, and a non-chance based or judgment based or subjectivity based method called as non-sampling, non-probability sampling. In case of probability sampling, each of the member of the population has the same chance of being selected. In case of non-probability sampling, there are biases, there are limitations because of several factors like cost, accessibility, time restrictions, which may require us to go for non-probability sampling. In case of probability sampling, we use random sampling. In case of non-probability sampling, we do non-random sampling. Probability sampling is largely deployed for conclusive research or objective research or for unbiased analysis, whereas non-probability sampling is used for exploration, subjective research, and the element of bias is not a big concern. Let's talk about the different types of probability and non-probability sampling. The simplest of the probability sampling is the simple random sampling. Let's say there is a population of 1 million people. You want to select a sample of 1000. You can simply randomly generate the number between 1 and 1 million, and those randomly generated 1000 numbers could be the label for the objects that you will draw from the population to study. This is applicable in case of homogeneous population. In case of population having several subclasses, we use stratified sampling. For example, in a company, you may have junior management, middle management, and senior management. The number of people in each of these management tiers is different. We want to give a fair representation to each tier of this in a sample of this population. So what we do is we allocate certain proportions of sample to be drawn from each strata of this population. Within the strata, we do the random sampling. So our sample is representative of the population. There are types where we may have large groups of similar objects in the population. For example, let's say the cities of the similar nature and scale. In such a case, the differentiation between one city to the another is not much. In that case, what we do is we identify the number of these homogeneous groups within the population called clusters, which are similar in nature, and we randomly select a couple of clusters from this population, and then we do the complete enumeration of every member within the cluster. That's cluster sampling. Another case of probability based sampling is systematic sampling. In case of systematic sampling, we never have the access to the entire population. For example, a bottling plant for some soda. In that case, what we do is we pick up the every 100th bottle from the production line, and we randomly test these bottles from the production line to determine the quality of production. So here is the example of stratified versus cluster. In case of stratified sampling, we have the sample collected from each strata in the proportion of the size of the strata. In case of cluster sampling, every member of the cluster is sampled. Let's talk about the non-probability sampling. One of the simplest non-probability sampling is the convenience sampling. For example, you collect data from the people whom you have access to. You may collect data from people who positively and voluntarily come and answer your questions to provide you with the data. That's convenience sampling. Voluntary response sampling: among all the accessible people, you only collect data from the people who are willing to give you data. That's a voluntary response sampling. Another one is a purposive sampling. In case of the purposive sampling, we collect data from the people whom we believe have the best of the knowledge or best of the understanding of the object or the issue that you are studying. There is another method called snowball sampling. In case of snowball sampling, we collect data from the people whom we have access to, followed by requesting the people to further collect the data from the people whom they know. This is snowball sampling. There are two types of errors that can happen in sampling. Sampling error and non-sampling error in this data collection. The sampling error is the difference between sample statistic and the population parameter. This is inherent characteristic of the statistical study when we are making the estimations. We will be studying sampling error in detail. another error that can creep in to our data is the non-sampling error. This primarily refers to the errors while collecting data, either because of the administrative processes that are followed, or it could be the data elicitation challenge, wherein the respondents' biases may lead to untruthful responses, sometimes non-responses, etc. Data collection method may involve how the question is asked. It may involve the data entry error. It may also involve the errors because of the transformations done on the data. The non-sampling error is not within the scope of our course.